Thank you for listening to my daddy's podcast. Please subscribe to our channel.
Hey, don't let these tears fool you. It's all dog around this mug. I'm good.
Hey, what's going on, Who Dat Nation? It is yours truly, Timothy J. Jones. And yes, I am the host of the State of the Saints podcast. And thank you so much for checking out the State of the Saints podcast, where we talk New Orleans Saints. Really do appreciate your time. Shouts out to everybody here. Shouts out to everybody that's listening on social media, YouTube, wherever you're listening. I really do appreciate it. On this edition, we're going to be talking about the Saints head coaching search as it continues. As we all know, the Saints are the final team to pick their head coach. And, there's some names linked to the New Orleans Saints. And one in particular is the individual we're going to be talking about mostly today, which is Kellen Moore, the offensive coordinator of the Philadelphia Eagles, who is going to be coaching in this year's Super Bowl 59 in New Orleans. And we're going to be tackling the question, could Kellen Moore be the next head coach of the New Orleans Saints? And also just kind of breaking down who Kellen Moore is, as far as, him being a coordinator and some of his stops that he has had throughout his time in the National Football League. But I want to give another shout out to everybody that's in the chat right now. Those that are in the chat, the chat is jumping, man. They are jumping right now. Everybody's excited to talk about some Saints football. Also, I want to say thank you to those that checked out the AFC Championship game watch along that we did on Sunday. The Kansas City Chiefs and the Buffalo Bills. That was a really exciting watch along. Shouts out to those that called in and also interacted throughout the show. Really do appreciate this. And if you're new to the channel and you just kind of stumbled across the channel, whatever reason, number one, thank you, but you can interact by putting your comments in the chat. And then it's been a minute. I haven't done this in a while, but I do want to acknowledge the people that show up when the show is all said and done. Probably can't check it out live. Shouts out to them after show.
Shouts out to them after show boys. Shouts out to them after show boys. They be tweet and be post. They be tweet and be post. They be tweet. Yeah, them after show boys. They be tweet and be post. They be tweet and be post. They be tweet. Yeah, them after show boys.
Shouts out to all the after show boys and after show girls out there. But let's go ahead and get into it. I'm pretty sure a lot of you already heard that the New Orleans Saints, according to sources, are flying out to Philadelphia to speak with Philadelphia Eagles offensive coordinator Kellen Moore. Now, I think one of the sources, or a few, said that they were going to be flying out as early as Monday, which is today if you're watching this live. But some people said it's probably going to happen rather today or in the middle of the week. So regardless, the New Orleans Saints we anticipate the New Orleans Saints flying out to Philadelphia to speak with Kellen Moore. And, a lot of people are kind of putting two and two together when it comes to that, saying they must really actually like this guy to a point they're going to get on a plane and they're going to fly to Philadelphia where he is and try to interview him. So a lot of people look at that, or maybe they have the indications that he might end up being the next head coach of the New Orleans Saints. But I just want to go ahead and do a quick breakdown of Kellen Moore, if you can give me a few minutes here. For those that don't know, Kellen Moore, as of right now, I mentioned he is the offensive coordinator of the Philadelphia Eagles. He's 36 years old. He played football at Boise State from 2007 to 2011. He was undrafted back in 2012 by the Detroit Lions. He spent about 2 seasons there, and then he went to the Dallas Cowboys from 2015 to 2017. And in 2018, he decided to hang up the cleats and become a member of the Dallas Cowboys coaching staff as their quarterbacks coach. And then he became the offensive coordinator in 2019 to 2022. He was with the Chargers in 2023, and now he's with the Philadelphia Eagles in 2024. So that's the breakdown. And I got to say this. This is a guy that I have seen like just grow as a player and as a coach right in front of my face. Like I can remember Kellen Moore because I tell y'all this all the time when you know I was watching college football. I kind of fell in love with Boise State. I mean the classic Fiesta Bowl game when they shocked the world and they beat the Oklahoma Sooners. Zach Zabransky was the quarterback and Ian Smith was the running back. And then after Zabransky left, Kellen Moore became the quarterback, and he just broke all the records at Boise State. I mean, I want to say he was maybe a 4-year starter. So I watched this guy play in college, and then he went to the Lions, and then really like wasn't the best quarterback in the world. He was a guy that was really, really smart when it comes to like his decision making and stuff like that. You know, as far as he know where the ball go. But he didn't have that athleticism, that ability to you know stay in the league for a long period of time. And credit to him, you know, understanding that maybe football as a quarterback isn't my calling card. Maybe that's not my calling. Maybe I need to go to the coaching ranks. And he did that, man. And I think that's pretty impressive. Like if you look at his resume, he played football. He came into the NFL in 2012 as an undrafted guy. And then he played a couple seasons with the Lions, and he played with the Cowboys from 2015 to 2017. And then in 2018, he just instantly became a quarterback coach. Like he didn't even have to like Joe Brady had to get coffee and stuff like that. We heard the stories about that. This guy went from being a quarterback or a backup quarterback for the Cowboys to being the quarterback's coach. Like that's pretty impressive. And, you know, he kind of climbed the ranks, offensive coordinator, ended up getting fired because, you know, Mike McCarthy was the one that was mostly calling the plays in Dallas. He goes to the Chargers. And then, like I said, with the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, the question is Kellen Moore a good coach? And I'm not trying to knock the guy. I'm not. Like, I feel like if you are a coach in the National Football League this long, like right after you stop playing quarterback and you have had a job ever since, you got to be pretty knowledgeable at what you're actually doing, right? It's offensively, defensively, special teams, etc. You have to be pretty good at what you do. I don't have an issue with Kellen Moore. Like, this is one of those things where I don't feel like he is on everybody's list as the top guy. But if he was to become the Saints head coach, I feel like Saints fans would probably embrace it because he kind of checks those boxes where some of the Saints fans really want the team to go. They look at the Sean McVays, they look at the Matt LaFleur's, they look at the Kevin O'Connells, the young 30-something coaches that get into coaching and they can relate to some of the younger players because, you know, they're around their age and, you know, that's what people feel like the NFL is going. So in that regard, I can understand that. But my only question is when it comes to Kellen Moore, who is that one guy? Who is that one guy that you can look at in the National Football League since he has been a quarterback's coach and a coordinator that you can say that Kellen Moore is responsible for the development of that player? I'm just saying, like, I look around the National Football League, I think about his stops, I think about some of the guys that he has coached, and I'm just wondering to myself, who is that one individual where you can look at it and be like, man, Kellen Moore put his stamp on him? I just don't see it. And, you know, I was reading this article. It was based in Boise, and a guy by the name of Marco wrote it, and I'll make sure that I put the link inside of the comments and also in the description so you all can read it. But I'll paraphrase it. It was basically talking about Kellen Moore not being a good head coach, or he won't be a good head coach, and here's why. Now, this is in my opinion, but I thought it was pretty interesting. Some people look at Kellen Moore around the National Football League based on his article as a guy that is too much of a professor-like mind frame, like a guy that's like a football savant, that he's like going to an Ivy League school when it comes to like coaching. And sometimes, you know, you got to kind of break it down in order for guys to understand, because everybody doesn't learn the way that you do. Everybody can't go to Harvard. Everybody can't go to Yale, you know. So they praise his football knowledge, but they feel like it may not be able to register with a lot of people. And also they talk about, you know, his personality. You know, not the guy that's going to stand in front of the room and give you the rah-rah speech, but we've seen in the National Football League, you have coaches that not sitting up there, you know, telling you to win one for the Gipper and having you running through a wall, but he understands offensive or defensive concepts, right? The article also talked about his stops. And this is why I'm having this conversation with you all right now. The question is, like, who did he help? Like, even right now. And I'm not trying to poo-poo on this guy, but the article basically says that with the Philadelphia Eagles, they were already good. Like, Saquon Barkley was already a generational talent. Like, Saquon Barkley has always been good. You know, people like making it seem like Saquon Barkley just became good this year. Like, Saquon has always been a really good running back. He just dealt with injuries throughout his time in the league. So what he was saying is, it's not so much about what Kellen Moore is doing in Philadelphia. Philadelphia would have did that with basically anybody. And you have to ask yourself, really, like, does he play such a huge role that Philadelphia would have not made the playoffs or not been in this situation that they're in right now? Because we know a few years ago, Philly was in the playoffs, going to the Super Bowl. Last year, they kind of self-destruct, you know, for reasons beyond me. But Saquon Barkley, behind that offensive line that has always been good, I feel like he probably still would have ran for a bunch of yards. And I feel that way because I go back to the running back that they had before Saquon got there, which was DeAndre Swift. And DeAndre Swift had a really good season as the Philadelphia Eagles running back. So all I'm saying is, who is that one guy that you can say Kellen Moore is responsible for their development? I don't see it. I think this is maybe one of those cases, and could be one of those cases where you just in the right place at the right time. You know, and maybe the greatness and, you know, how good the football team is, and making it look like it's you. To me, it's like if everybody believed the hype of Eric Bieniemy. Like that's what it's like to me. How everybody was having these conversations, like Eric Bieniemy, like give Eric Bieniemy, like he's a good offensive coordinator. It's like he's that guy that everybody like basically kind of gives him credit. But my question is, for who? I'm just saying, for who? Like Dak Prescott? Not really. You know, like Dak Prescott started to really have some of his best years and put up some of his best numbers with touchdown to interception ratio when Mike McCarthy started calling the plays. When you look at Justin Herbert, like Justin Herbert was already good. Like his numbers already looked like they was up there with some of the top quarterbacks in the league before he even got there. And it's not like when he aligned himself with Justin Herbert's career just took off. So I just got to ask this question. Are we being psyched into accepting this guy because he may not be the 30-something-year-old coach that we wanted, but he still checks the boxes and he meets the description? You know, it's like, what do you want in a man? Oh, I want him tall. I want him with brown eyes. You know what I'm saying? Aaron, Pierre, that's Mufasa. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, what you want in a girl? You know what I'm saying? I want my girl, you know what I'm saying? Like 5'5", brown eyes, you know, like, and, you know, like, yeah, You know what I'm saying? She 5'5", but she ain't got no brown eyes. You know what I'm saying? He ain't Aaron Pierre, but he Mark Pierre. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't get what I'm saying? Like, I don't know, man. Like, it's like we trying to psych ourselves into like believing like okay, man, I can see ourselves. I can see myself like this guy being my coach. I don't get it. I don't get it. And I gotta say it, man. I don't want to go this direction. This goes to show you how sad things are getting around the New Orleans Saints organization. It is getting sad around the organization, man, to a point where we got to squint and we got to kind of maneuver in order for us to feel like we getting the best of the best. And look, I understand that Kellen Moore is coaching in the Super Bowl the next time we're going to see this man. But all I'm saying is, like, to me, how many coaches and coordinators have we seen be in this position but can't be a leader of men? And I just think that you already had a different type of energy with Dennis Allen as your head coach. To me, I feel like you'll have that same type of energy with Kellen Moore. Probably, like, if we want to be technical about it, like, Dennis Allen is one of the smartest defensive minds in football. There's a reason why he's the defensive coordinator of the Chicago Bears and he ain't stay on the street that long. He's knowledgeable about what he's doing. He's one of the best of the best. I guarantee you, if Dennis Allen never gets another job as a head coach, which I'm pretty sure he won't, he's going to be around the National Football League for a long time. He's going to be just like Steve Spagnuolo. Steve Spagnuolo was a head coach for the Rams. He was, interim coach with New Orleans during the Bounty Gate year. And, it just didn't work out. But when it comes to understanding defenses and putting together a championship defense, Steve Spagnuolo is that guy. And I feel the same way about Dennis Allen. Now, your opinions and your views about Dennis Allen are based on how he was as a head coach. If Dennis Allen, I guarantee this may sound crazy, but this is the truth. If Dennis Allen never took the job as a New Orleans Saints head coach, and let's just say the New Orleans Saints decided that they wanted to get a new head coach that wasn't Dennis Allen, and Dennis Allen leaves, people would get upset that Dennis Allen is not a part of this coaching staff. But it's just the reality that he was the head coach, and all of the good graces and all of the good, all of the good equity that he had got washed away when he became the head coach. So I'm just wondering, like, who is, like, I feel like maybe this is one of those situations where it's just Dennis Allen on the offensive side of football, a really smart guy who understands offensive concepts, but not being able to be a leader of men, not being able to develop players. And you're kind of in the same situation as you were in when you first started. Because what are the deal breakers as a Saints fan right now? It's the fact that the New Orleans Saints have had a tough time developing players, having a tough time, when it comes to like some of the practices, like, making sure guys staying healthy, paying attention to the analytics, making sure guys ain't overexerting themselves, so they can be ready for game time. All these different things. I'm just questioning it. I'm not saying that dude can't come in and maybe be a good coach, because we don't know. Like, everything's just a question mark right now. But I am pretty skeptical about Kellen Moore, man. And I just feel like the narrative that's starting to run now is the fact that we don't want to feel like the bridesmaid. We don't want to feel that way. But in reality, we are. And I feel like, it's too much. It's too much delusion going on around Saints football for me. Like, we just got to call a spade, man. Like, this team is a disaster right now. It's a disaster. And it's just funny to me how people try to pretend that it's not. Like, it's always somebody else's fault, or your loyalty to the Saints is not good enough. Like, you can be loyal to anybody you want to, but if that person is not on the up and up and they're not doing the right things, like, you got to call them out. And right now, nobody wants to be a part of this organization because it doesn't look appealing. You got a quarterback in Derek Carr that people don't really believe in, because if people believed in Derek Carr, I think you'll probably have more coaches that'll be interested in this job. Some people want to talk about the salary cap and all that kind of stuff there. I mean, that's just a combination of it. But if you was dealing with a salary cap, a general manager, you know, that's been around forever, but you had a quarterback that was decent, you felt like you can win with, then I think that people would get on board. But this is a first time stop for a lot of these guys. And for better or for worse, you're going to get evaluated based on it. Like, a lot of teams don't look at how the Saints looked at Dennis Allen. Oh, he was just in a bad situation. Like, they don't look at it that way. Some coaches might get another opportunity, but you don't really see that much. It'll take some time. So guys are being very, very picky about the decision that they make, because this team is going to be conjoined to their legacy. And if this is your first time out and you got an organization that's struggling to with the salary cap, aging players, questionable quarterback play, then it's not appealing. So to me, I just feel like we have that bridesmaid type mentality. We trying to convince ourselves that, oh, this guy is pretty good. Oh, he's great. He's wonderful. Like, oh man, I wouldn't mind him. Like, it's pretty sad, man. You know, like this is equivalent to, you know, oh, I can't find a date to the dance. So man, you know anybody? Yeah, man, I got somebody I can call. Oh, they ain't home. Hello? Oh, where's she at? She went to the mall. Will she be able to be here tonight? Nah. Oh, okay. Hey, hello. Hey, you remember that girl that you was friends with, and then y'all wasn't friends no more, but y'all kind of talk a little bit? You think she free tonight? That's kind of what this is, man. That's kind of what this is. Like, you know, you're making a phone call and trying to see who gonna answer the phone so you can go to the dance with you. It's pretty sad, man. It's pretty sad. It's pretty sad, man. But before I get to the comments, I want to say thank you all for checking out the State of the Saints podcast, and we are powered by BETUS. You can sign up today, get up to 150% on your first deposit, up to 125% on your second and third deposit, up to $2,000. Use the promo code YouTube150. Let's go ahead and get started, man. Look at some of these comments here. Says Moore, probably a beast on a chalkboard and X's and O's. Strike me as someone who held a clipboard and studied it during the holidays, personality-wise, though. Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like he's a football savant. Like, I tell y'all this all the time. Like, let's take Jake Haener. Like, I would not be surprised in the next 5 to 10 years if Jake Haener is somebody's offensive coordinator or a coach somewhere. Like, the guy understands the game. Like, that's the perfect like similarity to me. Like, Kellen Moore is Jake Haener. Like, the way that Jake Haener is, like, that's how Kellen Moore was. Like, understands the game, very smart, can grasp concepts really, really well, but just don't seem like they got the athletic ability and what you actually need to be able to be a full-time starter in the National Football League. But everybody praises Jake Haener for his football knowledge. And that's what Kellen Moore is. But my thing is, how is that going to be able to translate into the locker room? Like, guys will follow you because they know what you're doing. But what's going to happen if you go through adverse times, man? I just think that you can be a really good football coach, but there's going to come a time when you're going to have to deal with adversity, and guys are going to have to look at you in the eyes and believe that you're going to be able to get them out of the situation. So I feel like, yeah, if he comes in and he cooking up the X's and the O's combined with the Willies and the Joes, and you start winning all of a sudden, yeah, guys will start believing what you're talking about. But what happens during adverse times? What happens if you drop 3 straight? What happens if, you know, like, you go through some type of hardships like you did last season? Are guys going to still look at you in the eyes and believe that you're going to help them win football games? I just think that there are certain things that coaches need. Now, some people look at coaches, they want the rah-rah speeches, and, you know, shouts out to Aaron Glenn. I seen his press conference today, and He came with a lot of energy and enthusiasm, and it gets people excited. It gets people riled up, and that's cool and all. But for every rah-rah speech, you had individuals like Tony Dungy. Like Tony Dungy didn't yell and scream and stuff like that, but he was a leader of men. Like he can understand these offensive and defensive concepts and what teams are going to do. And at the same time, when you go through hardships, guys looked at him and said, man, that's a guy I want to follow. That's a guy that I respect. You got to be able to have different layers as a coach. It can't just be like, oh, man, he's really smart at what he does. Like, because eventually, like, you're going to go through hard times. You're going to have to go through adverse times. And what are those players going to do when they look at you? So I don't doubt that, you know, if he comes in and the stars are aligned, the Saints will be able to do something. But my thing is, like, what happens if you start off struggling? I don't know. I just think that there's something more that you need. There's more than just being an X's and O's guy. You need a little bit more in certain situations. You got to be able to, like I said, have layers. Let's see. Having a worse cap situation doesn't help either. Yeah, I mean, it's bad situation on top of bad situation. You know, it's like questionable quarterback play. Okay, all right, and also our salary cap isn't good. Okay, and did I mention that our roster is a little bit up there in age? We got to learn how to adapt to that. Like, thanks, but no thanks. Like, it's sad, man. It's just sad. And people, and this is another thing. This is another thing that has been bothering me. I don't like how people are trying to make it seem like, oh, they want to praise the Saints for, oh, they doing their due diligence and they trying to do what they did. They trying to prevent from, just speeding through the process. Like, that'd be cool if that was actually true. But like I said, as Saints fans, as onlookers, it seems like we're trying to convince ourselves that what we're actually are seeing isn't what we're seeing. It's like we try to gaslight ourselves here. We're trying to convince ourselves that it ain't what it seems. If the New Orleans Saints were going through the process and they still didn't find the right person, then I'd be like, okay, cool. But we know that this process should have been over with, and it would have to have been over with, but it's still going on. And then you have two guys that were not conjoined, but were a part of the team at one time or another, and they just basically turned you down. So it's not like, oh, this our decision to keep this process going. It's like we have no choice but to continue with the process. That's where I'm at. Like, and people like, oh man, credit the Saints for doing their due diligence and being methodical. Nah, bro. Like you're being methodical because you have no choice to be than to be methodical. Like it's not like, oh, I want to be methodical. No, you don't. You wanted this process to be over with, and if it was your choice, it would have been. But like I said, you get turned down, and now all of a sudden you got to keep this thing going. Josh, thank you very much for the $2. Says, what's your reaction to DA to the Bears? I think that the Bears are going to have a really good defense. I mean, look, I don't dislike Dennis Allen. I think that Dennis Allen is a good defensive mind, a really good defensive coach. As a head coach, he sucks. Plain and simple. He stinks. He is not a good head coach. He is not a good leader of men when it comes to, maybe leading a defense, but just the overall operations of your team, I just feel like it's just too much for him. If Dennis Allen continues to be a coordinator for the rest of his football life, he'll be coaching so long, he'll be like Dick LeBeau or something, or Jim Johnson, may he rest in peace. Legendary figures in coaching that's coached for a long, long time till their head is full of white hair. That's what I feel about Dennis Allen. But as a head coach, no, sir. Josh also says we're the only team in NFL history that has to beg a coach to take a job. Loomis has to go one way or another. Well, I definitely agree that Mickey Loomis should, embrace the executive role. And, I think that if the Saints can't get it right this time around, I think they're going to force his hand. And I think you're going to have to, because this is, I don't want to say that because I'm just speculating, but it feels like it's reaching Trent Baalke territory. And you know how nobody really want to work with Trent Baalke. Trent Baalke was the general manager of the Jacksonville Jaguars. He also was with the San Francisco 49ers, screwed that thing up, when they had Jim Harbaugh the first time around, when they had Colin Kaepernick and they were ironically playing in the Super Bowl in New Orleans, and he couldn't really get along with Jim Harbaugh. He decided to let go of Jim Harbaugh, part ways with him, and then he brought in Jim Tomsula, who was the offensive line coach, and I think they lost like 10 straight games in a row, but before they end up hiring John Lynch as the general manager. So the guy has a bad reputation as a general manager, and I don't want that for Mickey Loomis. I think that Mickey Loomis, unfortunately, over these last 4 years, man, he lost a lot of credibility among Saints fans. I think Saints fans thought very highly of Mickey. They kind of praised him for some of the practices that he did, including, kicking a can down the road and, being they call it cap wizardry at the time. But when you losing, you just look like the fool that messed up the books. You know what I'm saying? You ain't flipping the money. You know what I'm saying? Like you messing up the money, So I just feel like, man, the Saints just need to go in a different direction. I think that right now it's pride that is blocking progress. And I don't feel like pride should ever block progress. Like I get it, man. A lot of people, we be at these jobs for a long time. We we been in these positions for a long time. And then, we start to slow down, and we can't do the things that we once did. And it's probably best for you to move out of the way and try to take on another responsibility. It's hard for a person to look in the mirror and say, I don't have the answers. I don't have it anymore. It's hard. But, you can't cover it up. It becomes more and more embarrassing by the day. It's like, you can try to hide your imperfections, but people can see it. I used the saying that everybody knows that the emperor has on no clothes. It's not like the little kid in the store. If you ever read the book, The Emperor's New Clothes, the kid in the crowd was the one that was pointing at him and laughed and said he ain't got no clothes on, and then all of a sudden everybody else follows suit. We at the point where the kid identified that you ain't got no clothes on. Now everybody is basically pointing and laughing at you. It's getting bad. And the worst thing about it is it's not like how the emperor came to himself and realized he was duped. It's like you still walking around this thing with no clothes on. It's like, hey, y'all think I ain't got nothing on, but look at him, I'm draped up and dripped out. Nah, bro, we can see it. So it's getting pretty sad, man. But I don't want anybody to go out like that. Like, I don't take pride in talking about Mickey Loomis like this. I mean, I can make it entertaining, which I try to do, but I don't like talking about Mickey Loomis like that. I mean, Mickey is responsible for hiring the greatest coach and the greatest quarterback in the history of the franchise. But I think that his time is up. I think his time. I think it's up. I think it's up. I think it's time to. I think it's time to just move on, give another person an opportunity. And I'm just hoping that maybe he just trying to get the books right, and maybe he'll pass the baton to somebody else because he don't want to leave them holding the bag or whatever. But I don't think Saints fans can keep this thing going for the next 2 to 3 years, man. I just don't. Like, people need to see some levels of change. They need to see that the direction is different. If they feel like it's the same thing that's happening over and over again, people going to check out. I mean, that's anything in life, right? Like, man, you in something, you're in a relationship, you had a job, and you start to like list your displeasures. I don't like when you did that. When I'm at work, I feel like we need to go in this direction, that direction. And they kind of convince you like, okay, we going to work on it. We going to get this thing right. All right. Just be patient with me. All right. You might be patient with them, but if you start to see the same things in your relationship, the same things at your job, you like, man, it's time for me to move on and try to find another job. You get what I'm saying? So I don't want Saints fans to check out, because you got a combination of Saints fans that are just got Mickey Loomis fatigue, and then you have another set of Saints fans that hasn't experienced the hardships that the Saints have experienced in 4 years. Because I mentioned, one, they're not old enough to remember the Saints when they were terrible. Or two, it's like you probably wasn't into football like that. You know what I'm saying? And the Saints made you that way. Right? So yeah, sorry about that. Talking to Paxton. Yeah.
Hello, fans. Hello,
You can say hello to everybody, okay? You can say hello to them. All right.
Hello, Saints fans.
Yeah, hello, Saints.
Welcome back to Daddy's podcast.
All right. Hey, man, I done started something. Now you want to be on camera all the time, man. But I'm like, you got the macaroni from school lunch on you. And come on, man. Like, you got to be presentable to be on camera. But look, man, I think he's been bitten by the bug, man. So I'm pretty sure y'all gonna see him on here quite a few times in the future. But let me go ahead and finish reading some of your comments, man. Let's see. It says also we refuse to tank. We will never rebuild if we keep Carr out there pretending like we can maybe get to the playoffs. Yeah, look, I'm not advocating for tanking. I'm advocating for seeing what you got. Like, the Saints need to go into 2025 with a sink or swim type mentality. Don't go into the season like, man, I'm ready to lose, but have a deep dive into who you actually have. But also try to make this draft the best draft possible. Make it the best draft possible. Do your due diligence. Be happy when you turn in that card with the names on that list. And see what you got. I mean, my biggest, I said it, the biggest issue that Saints fans have with this organization right now is that they trying to pretend like the problems that are right in front of our face aren't here. Like, nobody's telling you to go to the podium and be like, man, you know what, ladies and gentlemen, we suck. We absolutely suck. We went 5-12. Let's just go ahead and blow this whole thing up. But have like some type of acknowledgement about the state of affairs of your football team. And some people look at it like, we don't want to get a fans to satisfaction. You don't have to. You don't have to, man. You ever did play spades, man? You know what I'm saying? Like, bro, I already know I know I got about 6 or 7 books in my hand. I already know. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I'm sitting there with the big joker and a little joker, man, look, I know I got at least 2 right here. Then I got a couple spades in my hand too. So I know man, come on, man. Like, we all can see it. You know what I'm saying? You sweating over there. You sweating like a preacher about to come to a close, man. We see it. We see it, man. And that's people just want acknowledgement. Like, nobody's saying for, like, I promise you, if Mickey Loomis would have went to that press conference and acknowledged some of the things that were going on with this football team, like, really, like, man, first off, I want to say to the fans, last year was unacceptable. But up here talking about the injuries was the reason why y'all stunk. And, yeah, that played a role. But y'all didn't have nearly the injury issues that you had the year before, and you still didn't make the playoffs. And that was where, like, honestly, if we being real, you had a better chance of making the playoffs last year, because it was like what happened to you was happening to other teams that you were facing. But when you go up here and playing a blame game and saying, oh, man, this is the reason why we weren't good, ain't nobody trying to hear that, bro. Like, when everybody can actually see it. But I just think that if he actually showed, some compassion, some acknowledgement, and like I said, you ain't got to just completely feed the wolves, but I think that people would come away from that press conference feeling a little bit better about this football team. But I feel like, it it was some cockiness to it. Wasn't as cocky as the chewing gum press conference, but people just want you to acknowledge the obvious. And the fact that you're not acknowledging the obvious, it just kind of ticks people off, man, and just make it feel like it's about you. Like, you making this about you. You making this like about your legacy. But you basically destroying your own legacy by not acknowledging what is going on right in front of your face. Because people don't like that cockiness. Like, if you're going to be cocky, you got to give people something they feel like you should be cocky about. What you are right now is a guy that lost his last 4 fights, but you still walking up in there like you Mayweather. Nah, man, you got to read the room, which I feel like that's something that the Saints organization has failed to do over the last couple of years. I ain't here to sugarcoat. Y'all know I'm telling the truth. Y'all know I am. It's easy for Loomis to be cocky when he had job security. Exactly. I mean, you hit the nail on the head, Brandon. I mean, look, if I know that I got immunity, right? Whoever sees Survival, right? They play games and then they get immunity. They know they can't get eliminated. But even on Survival, like, you still got to play your cards right, because you may have immunity today, but you may not have it next week. He has complete immunity. Like, he knows he ain't going anywhere. So you can move a little bit different. But you would hope that a person that has that level of immunity be able to look at themselves in the mirror and understand their shortcomings and be willing to step aside. But that's not going to happen. And to me, if I felt like this was a general manager that was desperately just trying to get it right because he wants to do a good job, then I probably would give him the benefit of the doubt. But I think that this is more about Mickey Loomis, the person, than it is about the organization. I feel like he wants to prove to the world and prove to Saints fans that he can get it done without Breeze and Peyton. And to me, I feel like you're just setting the team back. So hopefully they make the right decisions, because I'm not feeling very comfortable. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people that write for this team, people that cheer for this team, probably feel the same way. TJ is that dude. Brian, I appreciate it, man. Thank you for stopping by, man. Saints in rebuild mode right now. Why not go with a young head coach and Moore? Give him a chance to see what he can do with Rattler. Look, I said it at the top of this show, and I'm going to say it again if you just tuned in. Kellen Moore checks the boxes of what Saints fans, or I won't say all Saints fans, but you got a nice sample size of Saints fans that want them to go in this direction. He may not be the 30-something-year-old coach that you wanted in the first place, but he represents that, right? So why not give him a chance? But I also don't want this man to be a coach that's just a lamb that's just being sent out to the slaughter here, right? And what I mean by that is, we know that this team is in some bad shape, so we want this man to be the sacrificial lamb. I mentioned this. For better or for worse, fair or unfair, NFL teams are evaluating you on your coaching stops. They're not going to look at, man, well, he did take over that Saints coaching job when they were $60 million over the cap and they had an aging roster. No, they're going to be like, he didn't turn the New Orleans Saints organization around. And that's why I feel like a lot of these guys have a cause to pause, because they understand that. Man, I mean, we going at, as of right now, people are going at all-world generational quarterbacks because they lose to arguably the best quarterback in this generation in the playoffs. Oh, they ain't good enough. They not a good quarterback. So imagine these guys out here putting up 4,000 yards, good touchdown to interception ratio, and people trying to convince you that they ain't good enough. Imagine how that would be if somebody ain't winning no football games. These dudes know that. And if you are a second-time coach or whatever like that, this could be your death sentence. I can understand why Cliff Kingsbury be like, I think I might be cool with Jaden Daniels. I might be cool. Let me think about this. I can understand that, because his next spot, honestly, it has to work. Because if it don't, he probably will never be a head coach in the National Football League again. And if you're a first-time coach, this might define your legacy for better or for worse. You might go into the next, if Kellen Moore didn't take this job, he can probably go into the next the next year, and be first in line. But if he takes this job and it's just a disaster, for reasons beyond his control, he might be third, fourth on the chart. Let's try to call him in if this guy don't pan out. It's a tough decision. I'm pretty sure a lot of you been in businesses and apply for jobs and stuff, and you go to the job and it's a mess. And you have to think about that, man. Like, if I take on this job, like, would that be a reflection on me? You know, like, if I can't get this thing done, like, y'all know that. So I don't know, man. I can understand why these dudes are skeptical about this job. I think that was another thing that was foolish. Like, you stand at the podium and tell people that it's an attractive job. Like, people want to coach in the National Football League, but they want to have like something they can actually work with. You ain't giving them nothing here. TJ, when you realize that you are the last person left from the old regime, it's time to go. Just saying. Sometimes guys can reinvent themselves, man. Sometimes you can do that. Sometimes you can reinvent yourself. Sometimes you can, be the last man standing and reinvent yourself and go a little bit further. But I feel like you have to acknowledge some things have to change. You get what I'm saying? Like, nobody, like, anybody that kind of stays on, they never the same. Like, if they got to change it. Like, go back to Sean Payton in 2006 and how he coached, and look at him like as time went on. Like, he wasn't even the same guy. Wasn't even the same person. Like, looking at Sean Payton when he first got to the Saints versus like towards the tail end of his career, he was different. Like, even Reggie Bush talked about that before. He was like, man, they doing this in practice, man. He wouldn't have never let us do. Like, he had to change his style. You had to change in order for you to survive. There's a man that just keep on doing the same old song and dance, and he expect for the world to stay the way it's supposed to because it's the way that he wants it to be. Like, that's not how it works, man. The wheels keep turning. You can go outside with them platform shoes with the fishing and some bell bottoms if you want to. You know what I'm saying? And with the Bishop Don Juan hat on, and like, think somebody, oh man, I'm like, people gonna look at you like you crazy. Like, it might have been in style when you was out. You know what I'm saying? Like, shoot, the Bugle Boy jeans, South Pole, you know what I'm saying? You can dress that way if you want to. They're gonna be like, man, it was 2,000 day at your school or something. Like, that's how they gonna feel. Like, it was 2,000 day at work. You gotta change with the times, man. Like, you gotta come to grips with what's going on in the world. Like, if you don't, like, you gonna drown. This is a man that just refuses. This is a man that just refuses to adapt. Like, even them right now, like, you're back against the wall and you still trying to do things. Like, I don't even think this is gonna change it. And if you're doing stuff like that, man, then it's never gonna work. It's just not. Where is Dennis Lauscher? Is there nobody in Gail's ear telling her what's going on? That's my concern. There's no way she doesn't know what's happening. I'm pretty sure she knows what's going on. I'm pretty sure she knows what's happening, but I think she trusts Mickey. And I feel like it's also one of those situations where it's kind of like you don't have much of a choice to do that. Look, I like Mrs. Benson. I think she's a really good woman. She does a lot of stuff in the community. Anytime something goes down, like she gives money to all of this stuff, but she wouldn't be around football if she didn't have to. Like if she wasn't married or didn't marry Tom Benson, I don't see Gail Benson sitting in the Smoothie King Center watching a basketball game. I don't see her in row 100, seat 2, watching the black and gold and leading the who that chant. You know what I'm saying? Like I just don't. This is a person that inherited a team, you know, based on her marriage to a late husband, and she's just trying to make the best out of it. I can't, like, I mean, I don't want to sit up here and just criticize. I mean, you don't know what you don't know. She relies on the people that's around her to give her, you know what I'm saying, some advice, some advisement so she can make the right decisions. But the problem is when you have your best football mind in the building, the one that's most experienced when it comes to football is Mickey Loomis. And we talk about Dennis Lauscher, but Dennis Lauscher is a business guy. I mean, shouts out to my boy Big Q. Go back to like his episodes, like he broke it down and kind of explained it to you. I'm not gonna steal his thunder, but he was right. He was right about, you know, like, you know, the positions. Like Dennis Lauscher is a businessman. You know, you trying to get that contract, you trying to improve the Superdome, you trying to improve the facility. That's the guy. So it's kind of hard, man. And like I'm not gonna blame Gail Benson for that. Now you just don't wake up in the morning and just know the ins and outs. I mean, I can remember like towards the tail end of Tom Benson's life, where, you know, he knew that, you know, he was getting sick and he wasn't going to be around for long. So she would like go to these different meetings and he was trying to like almost like kind of expedite the whole process. So a lot of what she learned as an owner kind of happened when he passed. Because when he started, like, go back, there's articles all over the place in the archives of, like, you know, New Orleans Advocate, Time Picayune, etc., where he would go to these owner meetings and she'll be with him and she'll sit there, kind of, you know, be that liaison. And he was trying to like kind of get up to speed about what his wishes were and what he wanted her to do. But most of this stuff she learned it on the fly. So I'm not going to knock Gail Benson for that. She trusts these guys to make the right decision and give her the right information so she can make that decision. And you know, I think that I'm gonna give her credit in this regard. We know that Mickey Loomis didn't want to fire Dennis Allen, but she did. So this tells you right here that if she needs to, she'll get it done. But at the same time, it's like, this is one coaching mistake. Like the salary cap and all that kind of stuff and holding on too long, we look at it as a mistake. But what can you do? Like, okay, the last coach that you hired, you know, before Dennis Allen was the coach for 16 years and he left when he wanted to. Like, so I guess that's the way she looking at it. Not us, but that's the way she looking at it. TJ, sounds like you describing Jerome from Martin. I mean, y'all can be Jerome from Martin. They can be Huggett Bell. They can be Bishop Don Juan. You know, like, look, you gotta adapt with the times, man. You gotta adapt with the times, or you're gonna be left behind. Paul Parker, facts. DA set us back more than we ever could have thought. I think it was a combination of, I don't even want to say, like, look, I don't even want to sit up here and just blame DA. Like, DA exists because Mickey Loomis allowed him to exist as the head coach. He was the head coach because Mickey Loomis wanted him to be the head coach. Mickey Loomis created this situation. There would be no head coach Dennis Allen if Mickey Loomis didn't want that to happen. And also, you definitely have to indict him because that's what he wanted the entire time. You know, you breeze through the process, basically making a circus out of the whole coaching search when you knew who you was going to get in the first place. You knew who you was going to get in the first place. So to me, like, that's more on him. Like, Dennis Allen was given a job and he was like, okay, let's do it. You know, like, so I don't know, man. I look at, there's more of Mickey too. He the one making the decisions. Mickey will hire McCarthy, such a Mickey move. They have history together. Excuse me. It's so obvious it's gonna be McCarthy. They just doing their due diligence. Well, look, even if it is Mike McCarthy is, you know, a safe hire. And, you know, some people say they don't want to play it safe. Some people say they want to, see what the Saints can be. They want to see what they can actually do. Man, I want to see what these players can do, but at the same time, I want the Saints to be competitive. Don't nobody want to be sitting up here for no 18 weeks watching the Saints fumble all over themselves like they did last year. You don't. You don't want to see that. This is the Kellen Moore thing. This is the head coaching search thing all over again. We're trying to convince ourselves that we can be willing to weather the storm and deal with situations that we don't want to deal with. This is the Jedi mind trick that Saints fans are trying to psych themselves up, trying to make themselves believe that they can endure a bad season. Nobody want to see that. If you end up losing football games, but all the while competitive, I can rock with that. But when I know that you about to get off the bus and they about to put 2 foots in you, I don't want to watch that. I'm not interested in that. If I'm not doing this, if I'm not TJ Jones, the host of the State of the Saints podcast, or the host of the Saints Talk with Timothy J. Jones on Bleacher, I don't want to watch that. And I know you don't want to watch that. Nobody, I don't care. Nobody goes into anything saying, man, I'm okay. I'm willing to lose. You know who says stuff like that? Losers. I'm okay with losing. I don't want to lose nothing. I don't want to lose at nothing. They got times where, if you with your kids or something like that, man, you see them want to build some morale. Yeah, you won. Hey. But no, I don't want to lose. I don't want to lose in anything. I want to win in life. Anything that I'm putting my time and my effort to, I want to win. And you also have to think about those players, man. Those guys don't go into the building man, boy, we sure gonna win 2 games this year. These guys out here clanging and banging, working out, all type of therapy, spending hundreds of thousands of dollars to take care of their body, going through these rigorous training camps and putting all this type of pressures on their body, taking all these hits for 2 wins. Nah, bro, you don't nobody wants to lose. And I don't care how you trying to make yourself you're psyching yourself up because psychologically you're not programmed to want to lose. I'm going to say that again. You're not psychologically programmed to wanting to lose. You don't wake up in the morning and say, I'm going to lose the day. Do you? Oh, I sure want to lose today. Boy, I woke up feeling like a loser. Who does that? So it's psychological. You don't want to do that. So if you can find somebody that's going to create some stability, why the freak not? Why would you want this team to look like trash? I don't. If you hire somebody, things don't go your way, and it just so happen to be that way, fine. But you want to find the best way for you not to look that way. I don't know what else to tell you. You're not psychologically programmed to wanting to lose. You're just not. Anybody that says that they okay with the Saints losing, they lying to themselves. You're lying. I'm okay if they lose. No, you're not. You would prefer for them to win. You're programming your mind to accepting defeat. But you don't want them to lose. So anybody, I don't care who it is. If Kellen Moore knock your socks off, hell, if Mike Kafka knock your socks off, and you feel like, man, the Giants, they weren't really utilized. I feel like they barely got something here. You feel like he can do it, then by all means, you might get some scrutiny. People might get some blowback, but guess what? You know what people gonna stop talking? If that guy comes in and the team start winning some games, they start looking different. Don't care where he come from. Don't care who he was the offensive coordinator. Don't care how many games the team that he came from lost. If he comes in with a mind frame and you can see changes and your team is competitive, all of that stuff goes out of the window. Go back to 2006. And I wish they had like some of these social media platforms that they have today. Ain't nobody knows Sean Payton was like that. Who? Sean who? Nobody knew who he was, but who is Sean Payton? The greatest coach in New Orleans Saints history. So then just stay true to yourself. You know, if it don't work out, it don't work out. And it's time for y'all to have a conversation about Mickey Loomis. But if you feel like one of these other guys can come in and they can give you some results, light a fire under the team and light a fire under the fan base eventually, hire him. True, and I'm quite sure is Loomis and the front office not trying to sell the team. I bet she wouldn't have a problem. Nah, she don't want to sell this team. She don't want to sell the team, man. She don't want to sell the team. Let's see. Hire Rita back since they like familiarity. I don't think they're gonna work out. Might have a fight. Might have a fight out there in New Orleans on their hands. Let's see. They know they wouldn't get free money nowhere else. What is Loomis and Lauscher network? I don't know, man. I ain't counting home his pockets. I don't know, but yeah, stability is definitely plays a role in some of the decision making. I definitely agree with you on that. Rita LeBlanc Benson would immediately move the Saints to San Antonio and the Pelicans to Austin out of spite. Yeah, I mean, look, I think that minus all the stuff that saying that's transpired and what she a hell of a businesswoman. Like if all that other stuff that went on didn't go on, and she had that mind, like, okay, man, I ain't thinking about San Antonio or something like that. Like she was necessary during that time. Like I do think that people need to give her some level of credit. In the beginning, like around the 06 to kind of like the Super Bowl years and stuff like that, when the Saints were like really rocking and putting up a lot of points. Like she was instrumental in that. But the problem is, it was just the whole family thing. I don't really want to get into that. It's sad that it had to get to that, man. I don't feel like money should ever like come in between families and stuff like that and decision making. It's sad. But if she would have just had like the best interest in keeping the team in New Orleans and had New Orleans on her mind at all times, I mean, I think that she would have been like really good. Like, if something was to happen to Mr. Benson, he would have left for the team. But now you can't be sitting up here like, playing the role, you know what I'm saying? But behind closed doors, you negotiating, backdoor smoke-filled room deals. You can't do that now. Dennis took a healthy culture franchise and straight nosedive straight to the ground. Yeah, I just think that, this was a coach that could do something with what you already had, but he wouldn't be able to build on it. I said, man, the Saints have an issue with developing players and have had that issue for a while. And, I just wasn't the right person for the job. I mean, team was a joke, and they would have continued to be a joke because Mickey Loomis would have kept that thing going. Can you imagine, like, if Mickey Loomis was the owner of this football team? He would have kept this thing going and going and going and continue to go. Ultimate Stream TV, thank you very much for becoming a member and subscribing to the channel. And you too can subscribe to the channel. All you got to do is hit that subscribe button and that bell for notifications. I'm going to read a few more and then I'm going to go ahead and get up out of here, folks. Told Paxton I was going to watch a movie with him. Says the biggest difference between Moore and Brady is experience. Moore has a longer track record. I guess you mean, Moore has a longer track record than Joe Brady does. But as a head coach, they both pretty much the same. Did they hire him? Closing in on a deal, TJ. Not to my knowledge. I'm just using Kellen Moore, as the topic today because, of course, we heard about the Saints flying to Philadelphia to talk to him, to interview him for the head coaching job. So just kind of did a deep dive at the beginning of the show on him. Talk a little bit about my thoughts and my views about him. So, you can kind of go back because I kind of went into like a real deep detail about my thoughts about him. So but he's just a topic of conversation due to that story. We can go ahead and eat the cap, get ahead of some things and maybe not struggle for 5 years, maybe 3 or 2. I mean, even next year, you'll be in much better shape than you are this year. But you can't keep on kicking a can down the road. You can't keep on lying to yourself about these players. Good players legendary players in some cases, you know, with this team, but that's not how you win football games. That's not how you sustain success. You know, sometimes you got to go broke for a week, you know what I'm saying, until you get your money back, you know, get your money back up. Sometimes you got to sit at home and not go to the club. You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes, you know, it's best to pay that rent, you know what I'm saying, and sit inside, you know what I'm saying, until the next pay period sometimes. You get what I'm saying? Like, you know, like sometimes you got to do that. Like, man, I can't go out, man. Hey, dog, man, party of the year, big dog, man, drink, club, man, ladies, hey, bro, I'm sorry, man. That sound real good. That sound great, but I gotta stay at home. Man. I see y'all boys next week. I done paid all these bills, man. I'm good. Sometimes you gotta sit at home, man. Sometimes you gotta sit it out. I know we all want to be out there, man. But hey, you can't be out there trying to club with your bill money, man. Can't do that. You know, you may, your friend, oh, dog, man, you should have came, bruh. Yeah, I wish I could have, man, but I'll get y'all boys next week. They ain't gonna stop going out no more. You know what I'm saying? It's like if the club was there last week, they're gonna be there the week after that. Like sometimes you gotta sit at home, man. You know, and right now, man, this is a time to kind of sit at home. And by sitting at home, I mean like reaping what you sow. You know what I'm saying? Like she would get yourself back to the black. Get yourself back to the black, man. Because they act like they flying out there to seal the deal or something, and that's not the case. I mean, they may not be the case, but they may just be trying to do their due diligence. And that, I mean, I appreciate that, but I don't know, man. I don't know. I appreciate them for trying, but we just know why they trying. Yeah, blow this year off and tank for Arch Manning. I don't know if they're going to tank, man. I don't know if they're going to tank. I think they're going to go into the season, whoever they got, try to win football game. Cam can't play 100% of the defensive snaps anymore. Should have take up 15% of the cap. Saints legend, but we got to say goodbye to the familiar faces. I agree, man. I agree that, you got to make some tough decisions. I mean, rather it's getting rid of Cam Jordan and allowing him to go somewhere where he can actually, cement his legacy and go into a Super Bowl. Man, I was looking at the game last night, and even though, a lot of people got Chief fatigue, when you look around and you see players like DeAndre Hopkins, who've been in the league for 12 seasons and has went through some bad quarterback play, but still has been one of the best receivers in the league throughout that time, confetti dropping on his head for a chance to play in the Super Bowl, man, you kind of put things into perspective. Like, man, you wouldn't want that. Just imagine like you working your entire life, you know what I'm saying? And you got this goal and it never get reached, like you don't want that, man, but if you feel like, you need to move on from it, so be it. I mean, these guys understand that it's a business, and I'm always going to continue to root for the guys that definitely brought us a lot of great times. I'm not advocating or saying, oh man, just kick them out of the door, but if that decision happens, like you got to do what's best for business. Like it's too much buddy stuff. And I feel like that's the reason why you're in this situation right now. Because everybody, you can be family, away from one another. Like you still family. Like I live 12 hours away from my mom, but I still love her. You know what I'm saying? Like, shoot, I still got a key to the crib. You know what I'm saying? So, like you have an appreciation, you have a love, man. But sometimes you gotta do what's necessary sometime in order for you to grow, in order for you to get back to where you need to be. You can't be, oh man, he's just such a great person. They are great people. Like I said, man, like Cam Jordan should be Walter Payton Man of the Year. Mario Davis should be Walter Payton Man of the Year. Like these guys are great players. Honey Badger, great players. Like, but when it comes down to business, you got to make the right decisions. I mean, it's even with those young players. Like you feel like, okay, man, We might have to go in a different direction. It's a business. It's not a shot at them. Like I said, I'm not advocating for nobody to get cut or released. You know, I mean, I know what I feel could happen. You know what I'm saying, to make your situation better. But you know, I mean, it's up to them at the end of the day. You don't want it. You don't want them to do that because, I mean, you got to think about this, man. Do family and stuff like that move the way you at? You've been here X amount of years. They got to uproot and kids got to go to another school in another state, meet new friends. Like, you know, that's tough. You know, that's the harsh reality of business sometimes. Linda, thank you very much for $4.99. Says, what's the hiring process for a head coach? Do the organizations reach out first? Yeah, they reach out to the organizations. You know, they put in I won't say they put in a bid, but they you know, they reach out to the organization, tell the organization that they would like to interview this particular person. Like, of course, the organization decides like if they want that person to interview or not. Like, I guess it depends on the contract. Like, you know, if a player, if a coach's like contract expired, like you ain't gotta talk to the organization like that. But if they under contract, yeah, they have to get the approval of the organization. But most organizations not gonna be like, no, you ain't about to be no head coach. Like, head coach, nah, you gonna be my coordinator. Nah, they won't do no stuff like that. So once they do that, of course, they'll be like, okay, such and such want to interview you, and then I guess they representation reach out to the organizations, and they schedule an interview that kind of, you know, fits everybody's time, you know, time frame. You know, let me meet on this day at this time. You know, there's different like type of things that happen now, like virtual interviews and personal interviews and how that works. But yeah, it's basically like you have to reach out to the organization that coordinator, that coach is a part of, to schedule an interview. And like I said, more than likely they'll allow that person to interview, because, you know, organizations aren't trying to like stop people from, you know, having, you know what I'm saying, like, you know, promotions and upgrading positions. They're not going to do that. I mean, that would actually make them look bad. Yes, I stay in Austin and haven't seen enough to say he's going number one overall. Trust me, I hope he does show out and we get him, but we should pump the brakes a little bit. Yeah, I think that it's just the name on the back of the jersey that got everybody excited. You know, his name is Manning. Like, that just kind of comes with it, right? His name is Manning, so he has to be good, right? What a quarterback named Manning was ever bad, you know? So, I mean, the guy's a part of like football royalty, right? You know, it's like the Kennedys or, you know, somebody like that, you know, like Manning on the back of your jersey, like you're going to be somebody. But, I mean, when your uncle was a Super Bowl champion, well, your two uncles was a Super Bowl champion, when your grandfather was, you know, one of the best quarterbacks in his respected franchise's history, I mean, you got a lot to live for, you know, live up to, I should say. So that's just a reputation. But I want to say thank you all for checking out the State of the Saints podcast. I really do appreciate it. Much love to everybody here. Shouts out to everybody that's watching this on X right now. Been getting a lot of love on X, you know, from people that's actually been viewing it on there. And I want to say I appreciate it, man. I appreciate everybody that stopped by, those that commented, to put their comments in the chat. Also, those that are going to be checking this out later. Shouts out to all the After Show boys and After Show girls out there. And you can follow me, if you have not already, on X at TJAY Jones 8, Blue Sky under the same name, TJAY Jones 8. And check out previous episodes of this podcast right here on YouTube, youtube.com. Search The State of the Saints podcast. I'm asking people that watch this on X, just take a few minutes to go over to YouTube, type in the State of the Saints podcast, and please subscribe. It can really help our subscription numbers go up. I know it's very convenient, like, to watch it on X. I'm strolling. Oh, it's the State of the Saints podcast. I can listen while I'm strolling. I appreciate that. But if you can help the show out by going over to YouTube and subscribing to the channel, hitting that bell for notifications. Also, you can check me out if you enjoy the Saints Talk. Every Wednesday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, is Saints Talk with Timothy J. Jones, yours truly, on Bleacher Report. We're going to be going live on Wednesday night, and every Wednesday night and for the foreseeable future, talking Saints football. Going to be giving you up-to-date information pertaining to the team. Once stories and stuff like that come out, we'll make sure we give it to you. We also going to start having guests back here on the State of the Saints podcast throughout the off season. So we're going to get some guests lined up to come through, to talk to us a little bit about the New Orleans Saints, the state of the Saints, no pun intended. And we're just going to try to give you the best content possible. So keep it locked right here to the State of the Saints podcast. Till next time, all I got to say is, who that?
Thank you for listening to my daddy's podcast. Please subscribe to our channel.
Hey, don't let these tears fool you. There's all dog around this mug. I'm good.